Yo, yo. Welcome back to another episode of Son of a Preacher Man. As always, I'm your host, Soap Man's in the house. Now, I know it's been a while since my last episode. I want to apologize for the brief hiatus that I was on. Soap Man's gotta make a living too. If you dig what I'm talking about, man. Now check this out. In my last video, David's son Absalom killed his brother Amnon. Now, I know that's kind of bogus to just jump right into the middle of the story without no background. We might have some new people watching, folks, so let's recap. You see, King David of Israel, he had it all. He had the kingship. His people that he reigned over loved him to death. He was successful in everything he did. He was like the dude Midas in the Greek legends. Midas, everything he touched turned to gold. Well, that was kind of like how King David had it. He was God's golden boy. And then he slipped. He saw a fine tenderoni bathing on the roof of her house, and he was smitten. And he gave in to temptation and slept with another man's wife. And not just any old man, a captain of his guard, Uriah the Hittite, a great hero within the ranks of his army. So, to add insult to injury, David not only sleeps with his captain's wife while his captain is off fighting one of David's wars, but then he gets her pregnant. He tries to get Uriah to sleep with his wife, to come back from the front lines and sleep with his wife, but Uriah won't do it. So David has him killed. So you see how this sin, this wrong, this dirt that David does, it's no getting away with it. It's no sweeping it under the rug. It just compounds and compounds. So Nathan the prophet comes and tells David, God, he not sleep on what you did. He's taking notice. He knows. And you got to pay for what you did. He curses David. My mother wouldn't like that term, but he does. He curses David. He says, the sword will never leave your home. And we see this manifesting in David's kids. Because as David gets old and well off into years, his sons from all his different wives and concubines become young men. And they begin fighting amongst each other. It starts out with his oldest son, Amnon, who forces himself on one of David's daughters, Tamar. Now, Tamar's brother, Absalom, he's not too keen on what his older brother, Amnon, did to his sister. Because after Amnon forced himself on Absalom's sister, Tamar, he left her unmarried, a big no-no back in these ancient times. So he basically ruined Amnon, the oldest son of David, ruined his half-sister Tamar's life by forcing himself upon her and then not marrying her. So Absalom waits for like 2 or 4 years, I can't remember exactly, and takes revenge. He throws a party and he has Amnon murdered at that party. And so that's where we gonna pick up. That's where we pick up today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are in the second book of Samuel. Son of a Preacher Man proudly presents part 11, The Conspiracy. So check this out. 2 Samuel chapter 14 verses 1 through 7 reads, Now Joab the son of Zeruiah, now I gotta remind you, after Absalom kills his brother, he flees to where his mother is from. He flees to his mother's native homeland. And so we pick up in 2 Samuel chapter 14, verses 1 through 7, and it reads, Now Joab, the son of Zeruiah, perceived that the king's heart was toward Absalom. And Joab sent to Tekoa, and fetched thence a wise woman, and said unto her, I pray thee, feign thyself to be a mourner, and put on now mourning apparel, and anoint thyself with oil, but be as a woman that had long time mourned for the dead, and come to the king, and speak on this manner unto him. So Joab put the words in her mouth. And when the woman of Tekoa spake to the king, she fell on her face to the ground, and did obeisance, and said, Help, O king. And the king said unto her, What aileth thee? And she answered, I am indeed a widow woman, and mine husband is dead, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Let me explain to you what happens. So the Bible says, after this occurrence with David's kids, meaning his third son, Absalom, murders his oldest son, Amnon. And after this occurs, Absalom flees to his mother's homeland. And so Joab, who is King David's nephew, and not to mention the general of his army, the Bible says that he perceives that the king's heart is toward Absalom, meaning the king misses his son, simply put. And so Joab devises this plan, and nobody even really knows what Joab is up to. But if you've been following my channel, you know Joab is a shady character. He's really smart and slick and clever like David, but he's no David. But for sure, Joab, David's nephew, is a superb general. He is an excellent fighter. He is an expert at military strategy. He is shady as hell, and he is a very dangerous individual. So Joab, David's nephew in general, puts this lady up to this task. And the task is to trick David into bringing Absalom home. This lady comes to the king because the king is the judge of the land, and he hears out different complaints and different disputes that go on through the land. So this widow comes to King David and says, "Oh, help, O king, oh, help." But now Joab has put her up to this, and everything she is saying are Joab's words coming out of her mouth. So she says, oh, king, I got this problem. I had 2 sons. I'm a widow, and I had 2 sons, and one of them killed the other. And everybody wants revenge on my son who killed his brother. And he's ran away. And everybody wants revenge on him, not just because he killed his brother, but also because they want his inheritance. I'm a widow. And if I don't have any sons, my inheritance, I don't have anyone to pass my inheritance down to. So King David says, well, you should be able to bring your son back home in peace. And it's really a plot to catch David up in his words, because if you would tell another lady she can bring her murderous son back home in peace, why won't you bring your son home in peace? He's guilty of the exact same crime. So somewhere between this woman pleading to King David for help, King David's gonna say, this sounds like the work of Joab. Joab put you up to this. Joab perceived that King David's heart was heavy. And so Joab gets to go into work. He's manipulating, trying to manipulate the situation, pulling strings behind the scenes. But who really knows what Joab is up to? Is he just being a faithful servant trying to cheer his uncle and his king up? Does he just want to see him happy with his son back in his arms? Or does Joab have an ulterior motive, knowing that the king is in a weakened state? So Joab puts this lady up to coming to the king, but the king, David, he's no fool. He's the slickest of the slick, and he perceives that Joab is behind this. He tells the lady, the wise woman from Tekoa, he says, this sounds like the work of Joab. Is Joab behind this? Let me see if I can find it. It says, and the king said to the woman, go to thine house, and I will give charge concerning thee. And the woman of Tekoa said unto the king, my lord, O king, the iniquity be on me, yada, 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 yada. Here it is. And it says, and the king said, is not the hand of Joab with thee in all this? So what I'm trying to show you without going through all these slides is King David, he reads through the trick. He reads through the plot. He knows Joab is up to this. So I hope I saved you a whole lot of headache and just telling you what happened. So let me further save you some time. King David allows Absalom to come home, but he won't see his son Absalom. So he tells Absalom, you cannot come and stay back within like the castle walls. I will not see your face for what you did. You can come home, meaning to Jerusalem, but you cannot come before the king. I'm still kind of mad at you for what you did. So Absalom, he has another method of getting word to the king. It says, and the king said unto Joab, behold now, I have done this thing. Go therefore, bring the young man Absalom again. And Joab fell to the ground on his face and bowed himself and thanked the king. And Joab said, today thy servant knoweth that I have found grace in thy sight, my lord, O king. And the king hath fulfilled the request of his servant. So Joab arose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. And the king said, let him turn to his own house and let him not see my face. So Absalom returned to his own house and saw not the king's face. But in all Israel there was none to be so much praised as Absalom for his beauty. Now that's something we talked about in the last episode too. David's son Absalom is probably about the most beautiful, most handsome man on the face of the planet. The Bible says not even one of his hairs was out of place. That's another way of saying this man is absolutely breathtaking. He's a lady killer. What else can you say? He's a lady killer. It says, so Absalom returned to his own house and saw not the king's face. But in all Israel there was none to be so much praised as Absalom for his beauty. From the sole of his foot even to the crown of his head there was no blemish in him. And when he polled his head, for it was at every year's end that he polled it, because the hair was heavy on him, therefore he polled it. He weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels after the king's weight. And unto Absalom there were born 3 sons and 1 daughter, whose name was Tamar. She was a woman of a fair countenance. So look, Absalom is fine, and that shouldn't be a surprise. David was a comely man, the Bible says. So Absalom even exceeds his father in beauty, and the Bible says the beauty gene carries on to his kids. So 2 Samuel chapter 14 verses 28 through 33 reads, so Absalom dwelt 2 full years in Jerusalem and saw not the king's face. Therefore Absalom sent for Joab to have sent him to the king, but he would not come to him. And when he sent again the second time, he would not come. Therefore he said unto his servants, see, Joab's field is near mine, and he hath barley there. Go and set it on fire. And Absalom's servants set the field on fire. Then Joab arose and came to Absalom unto his house, and said unto him, wherefore have thy servants set my field on fire? And Absalom answered Joab, behold, I sent unto thee, saying, come hither, that I may send thee to the king, to say, wherefore am I come from Geshur? It had been good for me to have been there still. Now therefore let me see the king's face, and if it be any iniquity in me, kill me. So Joab came to the king and told him. And when he had called for Absalom, he came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king. And the king kissed Absalom. So let's break down what happens. David allows his son Absalom to come home, but he doesn't allow him to see his face. So Absalom wants to get a message to the king. So he sends for his cousin, Joab, the king's nephew. Would that be his cousin? I guess. Hold on, I gotta think about this for a minute. Anyway, I can't think straight. I think that would make him his cousin. I really just took out a whole moment's pause to think about if Joab is Absalom's cousin. He is, right? Yeah, they cousins. So Absalom, he doesn't get a reply from Joab. So he sends another message for Joab to, meet with him. Joab doesn't answer the second time. So Absalom says to his servants, to his boys, he says, Joab has a field next to my property where he grows barley there. Do me a favor and set it on fire. And that's what they do. So this little brat, the king's third son, in order to get his cousin's attention, he sets his fields of barley on fire. And that certainly does get Joab's attention. When he sees what Absalom's servants have done, he doesn't just reply, he goes to Absalom's house. He can't touch the kid. It's the king's son. And this little spoiled brat says, yeah, I got your attention now. Go tell the king it had been better if I had just stayed where I was if he not gonna see me. So Joab gets word to the king. The king receives Absalom. They have a hallmark moment. It says, and David kisses Absalom. So he's finally seen the king's face. He's back in his good graces. He's back in the king's fold. But now what? Because Absalom, he ain't satisfied. He doesn't just stop there. He's not content. 2 Samuel chapter 15 verses 1 through 6 reads, and it says, and it came to pass after this, that Absalom prepared him chariots and horses, and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom rose up early and stood beside the way of the gate. And it was so that when any man had a controversy came to the king for judgment, then Absalom called unto him and said, of what city art thou? And he said, thy servant is one of the tribes of Israel. And Absalom said unto him, see, thy matters are good and right, but there is no man deputed of the king to hear thee. Absalom said moreover, oh, that I were made a judge in the land, that every man which hath any suit or cause might come to me, and I would do him justice. And it was so, that when any man came near to him to do him obeisance, he put forth his hand and took him and kissed him. And on this matter did Absalom to all Israel that came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. And I got some things here in red, big bold red print. But what's Absalom up to? The Bible says, after Absalom gets back in the king's good graces, he prepares him 50 men to run before his chariot. He procures him a ride. He procures him a nice ride. This little spoiled brat of a king's son procures him a nice ride and 50 goons to run before him. 50 soldiers, 50 of his boys, 50 loyal companions, 50 mercenaries. And he starts hanging out in the center of town. where the men of importance come. And it says that all the men that come to the king's throne to have a matter disputed or a matter judged, he comes to them before they can see the king, and he says, where are you from? Oh, you from a tribe of Israel. Tell me your matter. He starts kissing up to these people, brown nose and paying teacher's pet, and in the process, the Bible says he steals the hearts of the men of Israel. He speaks nicely to them. He speaks complimentary towards them. He compliments them. He tells them, oh, if only I were a judge or a head in Israel, I would give men justice. I would hear their matters quickly. I would render judgment quickly, and I would give men justice. What Absalom is really trying to say is, I'd be a better king than my dad. And in doing so, over the course of time, he placates these people. He compliments these people. He satiates the men of Israel, his father's constituents. Absalom steals their heart right from under his father's nose. But why? What is Absalom up to? What could he possibly be up to? He's killed his brother. And I was rooting for Absalom when he did that. Good for him. His brother shouldn't have did what he did to Absalom's sister, to his own half-sister. And I thought the revenge that Absalom rendered was nothing short of Justice. Good for Absalom. I was rooting him on. Absalom. Rah, rah, rah. I would have did the same thing. Only difference was I wouldn't have waited 2 years to do it. Look at the soap man while I'm talking to you. I'm Team Absalom. He goes off. He gets away with killing his brother. He gets brought back. The king won't see him for a little while, and he gets Joab to get him an audience with the king. He burns Joab's barley field. If you haven't been following my videos, Joab, David's nephew and the general of David's army, Joab is a complete killer. This man has a lot of notches on his belt, and the only way you get away with setting his money on fire is by being the king's son. So Absalom, he's revered as the most beautiful man on earth. The people love him. He's winning. He gets back in the good graces of his father, the king, King David of Israel. But he's not satisfied. He starts making moves. He starts making these moves under the table, these clandestine activities. But what's he up to? Sounds like a conspiracy to the soap man. 2 Samuel chapter 15, verses 7 through 12 reads, "And it came to pass, after 40 years, that Absalom said unto the king, I pray thee, let me go and pay my vow, which I have vowed unto the Lord in Hebron. For thy servant vowed a vow while I abode at Geshur in Syria, saying, If the Lord shall bring me again indeed to Jerusalem, then I will serve the Lord. And the king said unto him, Go in peace. So he arose and went to Hebron. But Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, As soon as ye hear the sound of the trumpet, then ye shall say, Absalom reigneth in Hebron. And with Absalom went 200 men out of Jerusalem that were called, and they went in their simplicity, and they knew not anything. And Absalom, now this is important, and I have it in big bold red print for a reason, and I'm going to unpack all this as soon as I'm done. It says, And Absalom sent for Ahithophel, the Gilonite, David's counselor, from his city, even from Gilo, while he offered sacrifices. And the conspiracy, I have in big bold red print, it says, and the conspiracy was strong, for the people increased continually with Absalom. Now let me explain exactly what Absalom is up to. The Bible uses the word conspiracy. So Absalom is up to no good. He means to usurp his father's throne. It says after 40 years had passed. Now I take that to mean he's about 40 years old. After 40 years had passed, Absalom's about 40 years old. He puts his conspiracy into the next phase, into the next action phase. This is the beginning of a coup. This is the beginning of a mutiny, a rebellion against his own father, who has forgiven him for killing his son, Absalom's brother. So Absalom asks his father for permission to go to Hebron. He says, after I killed my brother when I was in exile, I vowed a vow that I would sacrifice to the Lord in Hebron if I ever got to come home. So naturally, Absalom's father, the King David, says, oh, look at my boy. He's back on the right path. He wants to sacrifice to make amends for the awful murder that he committed. So he says, son, go in peace. But Absalom, being just as witty and crafty and underhanded as his father, is not looking to make amends. He's not looking to ameliorate the situation. Ameliorate. That means to assuage. To make better. To ameliorate. Ameliorate. Did I use that in its correct context? I think so. I think I did. So his father unknowingly gives his son his blessings to go off into whatever devices he endeavors. So that's exactly what Absalom does. The Bible says he sends spies all throughout the land of Israel to say, when ye hear the trumpet blow, declare Absalom king in Hebron. Then the Bible says Absalom takes 200 unknowing, unwittingly, it says in their simplicity, because they do not. He took 200 crowd pleasers with him. Sheep to the slaughter. They just follow in the king's son because he's the king's son and he's popular. They don't know what he's up to, but they follow him. And so Absalom goes to Hebron. And he sent his spies out, and he puts this conspiracy into the next actionary phase. 2 Samuel chapter 15 verses 13 through 20 reads, and there, I gotta remember this last part. It says he sends for Ahithophel. And I have that in big, bold, red print because that's important. And we're going to talk about Ahithophel in the next episode. He's a very important character at this time that we're talking about. It says, and Absalom sent for Ahithophel, the Gilonite, David's counselor. And then after that it says, and the conspiracy was strong, for the people increased continually with Absalom. The reason it says this is because Ahithophel is a heavy hitter within this part of the narrative that we're talking about. Ahithophel carries a lot of weight. He's very close to the king. He's his right-hand man. David depends on him for counsel. David listens to this man. He has the king's ear. So when Absalom sends for Ahithophel and pulls Ahithophel over to his side, when he garners the support of Ahithophel, that's a big transition or step in this conspiracy, because Ahithophel is a heavy hitter. You don't get someone closer to the king than Ahithophel. He's just pulled one of King David's closest allies over to his side. That's why it's so important. That's why I have it in big bold red print. And that's why it says, and Absalom sent for Ahithophel. And after it says that, in the next sentence it says, and the conspiracy was strong, for the people increased continually with Absalom. Getting Ahithophel on his side matters. That's a big win for Absalom and what he's trying to do. And that's usurp the throne. And 2 Samuel chapter 15 verses 13 through 20 reads, and there came a messenger to David saying, the hearts of the men of Israel are after Absalom. And David said unto all his servants that were with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee, for we shall not else escape from Absalom. Make speed and depart, lest he overtake us suddenly and bring evil upon us, and smite the city with the edge of the sword. And the king's servants said unto the king, behold, thy servants are ready to do whatsoever my lord the king shall appoint. And the king went forth, and all his household after him. And the king left 10 women, which were concubines, to keep the house. And the king went forth, and all the people after him, and tarried in a place that was far off. And all his servants passed on beside him, and all the Cherethites, and all the Pelethites, and all the Gittites. 600 men which came after him from Gath passed on before the king. Then said the king to Ittai the Hittite, wherefore goest thou also with us? Return to thy place and abide with the king, for thou art a stranger and also an exile, whereas thou camest but yesterday. Should I this day make thee go up and down with us, seeing I go whither I may? Return thou, return thou and take back thy brethren. Mercy and truth be with thee. 2 Samuel chapter 15 verses 21 through 29 reads, and Ittai answered the king and said, as the Lord liveth, and as my lord the king liveth, surely in what place my lord the king shall be, whether in death or life, even there also will thy servant be. And David said to Ittai, go and pass over. And Ittai the Hittite passed over, and all his men, and all the little ones that were with him. And all the country wept with a loud voice, and all the people passed over. The king also himself passed over the brook Kidron, and all the people passed over toward the way of the wilderness. And lo, Zadok also and all the Levites were with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of God. And they set down the ark of the covenant, and they set down the ark of God. And Abiathar went up until all the people had done passing out of the city. And the king said unto Zadok, carry back the ark of God into the city. If I shall find favor in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me again and show me both it and his habitation. But if he thus say, I have no delight in thee, behold, here am I. Let him do to me as he seemeth good unto him. The king said also unto Zadok the priest, art thou not a seer? Return unto the city in peace, you and your 2 sons with you, Ahimaaz thy son, and Jonathan the son of Abiathar. See, I will tarry in the plain of the wilderness until there come word from you to certify me. Zadok therefore and Abiathar carried the ark of God again to Jerusalem, and they tarried there. So I'm going to unpack all this that I just read. Let me see. So David is put to flight. He hears the word of the attempted coup reaches Jerusalem. And David, being the good king that he is, he doesn't prepare for battle. He's more concerned about Absalom getting the jump on him and raining down terror among the people of the city of Jerusalem. Now, see, you may say to yourself, why doesn't David just send out word and rally the troops and prepare for war against his son? Well, here's why. Because Absalom, when it says he wins the hearts of the people, just divided the nation in two. A lot of the troops that David would call to rally to his side, Absalom has already procured them to his side. So David's not focused on war. He's focused on the survival of the people with him in his city. It says he leaves 10 concubines behind, and that's going to be important in the next episode. But David, being the pious, virtuous person that he is, he does not do what the rest of us would do. He does not do what the average king would do. He does not do what 9 out of 10 kings would do, and that's hold himself up in the city and prepare for war. He does not want to put his people through this. This is a unique situation. This is not like he's fighting the Philistines where everybody is going to rally to his side. It's us against them. No, this time it's us against us. This is damn near civil war. Not to mention, he's got the most valuable item of his people with him, the Ark of the Covenant. He tells the priests that want to follow him, he says, no, take it back to the city and keep it safe. You know, this has to do with me, not God's holiest item, not God's holiest relic in our possession. Take the Ark of the Covenant back, keep it safe. If I survive this ordeal, I'll come back to it. If not, then so be it. Let God do what seemed fit to him. Let God have his way with me, basically. Even David's loyal companion, who is not one of the Israelites, it says Ittai the Gittite. That means he's a Philistine from the city of Gath. He is so loyal to David. He says, where you go, I'll go. If you go to live, I go to live with you. If you go to die, I go to die with you. David is such an impressionable person. He leaves such an impression on people that they would give their lives for him in a heartbeat. And he's such a virtuous and pious person that he won't even selfishly allow them. David is so selfless that he won't even allow his companions to fight and die for him. The man is truly one of a kind. So David is sending the help away. He's sending the priest. He's not saying, yo, stick with me so I can use you as a human shield. He told the high priest, take you and your sons and the Ark of the Covenant back to safety. You ain't to be running out here in the wilderness. Here I am in my old age, back off in the wilderness again, running from somebody, just like I did when I was young, when I was running from Saul. He tells the priest, make your family safe. Go back to the city. If I'm lucky, I'll be back. He says, but in the meantime, be my eyes and ears in the city. David tells them he sends the high priest and their families back as spies. Nobody plays this game better than David. He's suffering right now. He has been cursed and he is suffering. He is suffering that curse. But David is such a formidable individual that even when he's knocked down and on his back, he's as dangerous as though he were standing on his feet. Ladies and gentlemen, short video for you today. I'd like to welcome you back as you welcome me back after that brief vacation that I took. I apologize. Hope you stuck around. And yeah, we just gonna pick up right where we left off. So we've come to the part of this episode where I thank you for joining me for this edition of Son of a Preacher Man. If you have any likes, dislikes, insults, comments, commentary, suggestions, questions, flirtations, leave them in the comments section. I'll see you next time. Same soap channel, Soap Man. Out.